Welcome back. This week we're going in focus on millennials in elected office. The definition of a millennial is someone born between the years of 1979 and 1996. And when you look at the millennials who ran for Congress just last year, substantially more of them were men than women, but that does track with candidates in general. Joining me now to continue our conversation is Brad Young. He is the executive director of the North Carolina Institute of Political Leadership, and Layla Zaidane, who is the executive director and chief operating officer of the Millennial Action Project. I want to thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks.
Layla, let me start with you on this. Have we turned a corner where there is more interest now from younger folks in elected office, and then more interest in actually electing these folks into office?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think what we've seen at the Millennial Action Project over the past few cycles is that we have seen a total explosion in the rate of young people running for office. And you mentioned at the top of the segment that we've seen more than 250% increase. It's actually a 266% increase from this year compared to the last cycle. And so I think if that trend continues, we're going to see a massive millennial wave, not just in Congress, but at the state level as well. And those numbers are actually even higher for 2020 at the state level. And here in North Carolina, even though only a few new millennials were elected, you're actually doing better than the country at large. So you've got about 26% of your legislature are 45 and under. That's about 4 points higher than the rest of the country.
Brad, people come through this institute, get training to go into elected office. What do you hear from some of the younger folks that are coming through the institution about perhaps what some of their hesitation is to running for office?
Sure. Well, especially in the state house level, as Representative Johnson identified, there are certainly issues that influence their ability to run for that office. It's a salary of $14,000 a year. So somebody that might be early on in their career would be in a position that they might not be able to run for a state house position. But I think the civic-minded nature of a lot of millennials, I believe that it's winning out to a certain degree and prevailing and driving them to some of these leadership positions.
Layla, can you tell me a little bit about the mission of the Millennial Action Project?
Yeah, absolutely. Millennial Action Project works to engage young elected officials, both at the national level and at the local level, in bridging the partisan divide. And our theory of change is that if you can shed that partisan identity and unite along a generational identity, that unlocks so many creative and innovative solutions that as a generation, we can really tackle together. And we've seen time and time again that when you put the issues as a future versus past and not just a left versus right, you can really create a lot of change.
Brad, we certainly, everything always evolves with politics, and we're in an age of social media where people can pick up some activism or advocacy that way. Do you find when people are coming to IOPL, do they have that understanding of what it takes to actually go from that side to being an elected official who's going to start making decisions for other people?
Sure. Well, millennials are in a bit of a unique situation because they are the last generation that remembers the world before the internet. This is a unique profile of people. They remember the way that politics were done, and they also have been alive for, let's say, the post-Obama politics that we live in now, where campaigns are fundamentally different. But I think that they have a unique ability to understand both of those worlds in a way that maybe Gen Z or whatever we want to call them that comes afterwards might not have that ability.
Layla, we can talk a lot about the elected officials themselves and the people who are putting themselves out there for that. We also saw a larger segment of the younger population vote in this last election. Are we seeing, I don't know if it's a trend or a wave of just younger people in general being more interested in who's leading us?
Yeah, you know, the past few years, whether you loved it or you hated it, was a civics lesson for all of us. And I think people's eyes are open to the political process and how your vote can lead to the change that you care about on issues like education, the economy, jobs. We're seeing a tremendous increase in not just, as you mentioned, people who are running, but people who are voting. And I think when you can recognize yourself in your elected officials, it gets you more excited about the process and you believe more in the change that, that they're telling you they can make.
And Brad, just quick before I let you guys go, what's the message to 20 or 30 or 40-year-olds who are saying, I wonder if this is something that I could be good at?
Sure. I think looking at the presidential level, what drives people to being involved in the last two White Houses that we had two what we would consider non-traditional candidates that might have given people the ability to say, why not me? Why could someone that isn't the traditional president? And then you might have someone, especially from our age group, that sees 74-year-olds running against 78-year-olds, and that also drives their involvement because they're the issues that or experiences that they've had this far in their life don't necessarily they're not reflected on the national level.
Okay. I want to thank you both so much for joining us today to talk about this topic. Now, this push to see the younger generation get involved in public office goes all the way down to the local level. We talk with two local elected leaders when we come back.